Alright, what's up guys? New video today. Very excited to do this one. This is hand traps. We're doing every hand trap that we can come up with all in one video here. We're doing all of the generic ones. We're trying not to do all of the archetype specific ones. So as many generic hand traps as we could find. If there are any that we missed, let us know. Also, if you enjoy this series, subscribe. 87% of you are not subscribed. Might as well join the party. Recommend the next video that we should do. And of course, if you disagree with any of these things, just leave a comment. It's no big deal. But let's get started. First, right off the bat, we've got impermanence.
Impermanence?
Exciting card. Easy.
Easy S tier?
Easy S tier. I think it's an S tier. We're reviewing all of the hand traps, so we're not just reviewing the hand traps right now. This is definitely an S tier. Yeah. This is an S tier. Like, the meta impact that it's had since it's come out has been, like, pretty much non-stop. It's never been below a $20 card, for example. It's had, like, 3-4 reprints. But
it's pretty immeasurable. And it's also, like, going first, going second as uses.
Yeah. You can set it, and it gets even better. It's one of the only hand traps that you can set, and it gets significantly better at its effects because then it negates columns. But that's its own ruling issue.
And some hand traps going second are just, going first are just like kind of dead because you have stuff on your field. So this is like pretty crazy for that.
Yeah. But that is impermanence. Easy S tier. Next we've got Magna Dragons Zidatron.
I'd say like low A, maybe high B.
Nah, you're overdoing it with this guy.
Really? He brings back any spell or trap to free summon of a dragon?
I think probably top of C. Because there's still all the meta really good ones up here.
That's true.
Yeah, basically whenever when your spawn trap cards get destroyed, this guy special summons himself from the hand or graveyard and then brings back one of those destroyed cards, and of course he is himself a special summon. So he's pretty good for that, but he's very deck specific.
Yeah, you have to be very dependent on your spells and traps.
Like, the only deck that I could even think of that runs this is, like, Red Eyes.
Dark Magician.
But it's a very deck-specific card. That's why it's not any higher. There's better ways to protect your back row. Next is...
Was it the Battling Boxer guy?
Battling Boxer.
Oh, yeah, when you take... I think when you take battle damage, you just summon it and gain the life points.
Yeah, he's an F tier. There's actually a card, believe it or not, as bad as he is, that power creeps him. So he just summons himself whenever you take battle damage and you gain the life points, but there's actually a card here that does that plus more. So that card is just automatically better, and that card's not good. So, yeah. Next we've got another S tier, Ash Blossom. This card negates summons from the deck, searches from the deck, drawing from the deck, adding from the deck.
I think Impermanence is above it, just because Impermanence is kind of harder to stop.
Impermanence is harder to stop, but Ash is just... There's never a time when Ash isn't used.
It's true.
That's the most
actually on release. Actually on release, it wasn't used that much.
On release,
like
yeah.
Zodiacs and two Dracos, it wasn't really used. But yeah, after that, it's just been extremely crazy, especially against like rogue decks and stuff.
It wrecks the rogue decks like so badly because sometimes they'll do like discard to search, and then you Ash them.
Or discard to draw.
Yeah, discard to summon. Like and then it's just they go -2. It's like it's too much. They can't absorb that sort of loss. So for them, it really is a turbulent sort of thing. And
even the common Ash is like several dollars.
Yeah, it's like $12 for a common. So yeah, it's always a very good card. It's probably the best overall hand trap. If there's one hand trap that I was allowed to play, I'd play Ash because it hits so many things. Next is Typhoon.
I'd say it's also in C.
C tier.
Yeah, because that was like...
It's probably better than Magna Dragon. It's very specific.
It was relevant against Mystic Mine. Yeah. But like, there's not that many back row decks. Like,
and face up back row deck too.
Yeah, the only other thing is that like relevant field spell like back row deck would be like Sub-Terrors, but those aren't even that like
not that scary.
Anymore, yeah.
So it really depends on the
meta.
On the meta. And
it's still really good though.
It is a good card. It's a trap card that you can activate during your opponent's turn, and it pops back row. So in theory, it's not that bad, but they have to have a face-up card in order for you to do it.
And it's cool because you can do it even if you're going second. You can do it on their end phase and then like pop stuff so they can't chain to it. That's just a really interesting thing about it.
Yeah. Next is Evenly Matched. This is A tier. This shreds back row decks, like absolutely destroys them, because they don't have the they don't have the luxury of having negates in the form of monsters, and they don't have the luxury of being able to keep resources in their hand. They have to set everything. When you use this against them, it just destroys them. Also, it's very good against decks that set up a lot of monster negates, but don't set up
trap negates.
Yeah, spell trap card negates. So it's very good against decks like Phantom Knights. Even like Virtual World, it's good against them. It's good against decks that basically spirals. When spirals were at their like peak, this card always wrecked spirals, because they just made like Appaloosa and then more monster negates and monster interruptions and more monster interruptions. But they really had no way to deal with this card, so this was like a huge out for them. But generally speaking, yeah, this card is actually really good. It depends on who you're playing against, but as long as they play back row or they don't have spawn trap card negates, this card basically demolishes them.
And this card got even better with Forbidden Droplets.
Yeah.
Because you just go into the battle phase, activate it, and then just chain droplets, send this. Or even like before that, even if you open up multiple, it's not once per turn. So you just activate it, they negate it, still into the battle phase, activate another one.
Yeah.
Or if you're a real god of luck, you can, if they dark bribe it, which they used to run, and you draw another one, you can just activate it, which is like really crazy.
Yeah, it'd be too crazy. Guardian Slime. Where would we put this guy? Probably D.
Yeah, probably D tier.
D tier.
All the battle ones.
Yeah. He just special summons himself when you take battle damage, and then when he battles, he becomes the attack and defense of the monster he's battling. So technically better than this battling boxer, but generally speaking, a lot of the battle hand traps aren't going to be very good, to be honest with you, just because when you go into the battle phase, your opponent will have so many negates and so many interruptions that activating those things is just not going to help in any way.
Unless you're like getting other negates out for your evenly matched or something. But
yeah.
the only cool thing about him is that he's a level 10 and he's a free summon, which is good for like I think the Egyptian god, the Metal Reflex line. But this is generic, and that effect is generic, the first one, but it's just not that impactful.
Yeah. Next, who is this? It's what's his name again? Is it Epsilon?
That is Epsilon. Yeah.
Epsilon. Was that negate traps?
Yep.
Epsilon is C tier.
I think he's actually lower because you have to control no monsters to negate a trap.
So
and it's like, what trap are they gonna activate?
Yeah.
And it has the same problem as like monster trap negates. They can't negate counter traps. There's just so much like.
Yeah. This card's not.
Like,
yeah. It's not good at all.
Maybe in the actual deck it'd be good, but like just generic wise, just not.
Yeah, generically this card's actually probably F tier too. Because yeah, I can't even come up with a situation where I would have no monsters, but my opponent would activate a trap card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't even come up with anything.
And even if they have like a floodgate, if it's something, most floodgates are like
responsive.
Yeah, to like monsters, so they'd flip like summon limit after you summon twice. They flip. There can only be one after, stuff like that. Like maybe like something like anti-spell or like Imperial Order, Royal Decree, stuff like that. But then it's like
even then it's like
it's
very specific. It's very specific.
It's just not worth it.
Miradora, B tier.
Yeah, it's
B tier.
B tier.
He's good. He special summons himself, and then it prevents your opponent from activating effects with that name. So it's kind of like a negate that doesn't start a chain in a way. So I'd say he's pretty good. The thing with him is it has to be 2,000 or more attack.
And like the main thing coming out from the extra deck is like Dragoon, which is 3,000 and can't be targeted.
Yeah.
And Predator Plane's 5,000.
Yeah.
He was cool.
Predator Plane's 500.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 5,000, the greatest.
We wish.
You wouldn't even need to summon Dragoon. But what's it called? He was cool with like the guy who got banned, Calamities. He was cool against him because they couldn't activate him, so you just had Miradora chilling. Calamity. They're just staring each other down, but Calamity's always in defense mode for some reason. I don't know why. He's 3,000 attack, but
he used to be, but he's gone. That's it.
Yeah.
No more Calamities.
So hopefully Miradora might get better.
So we've got Orange Light. Orange Light is probably here.
High B, maybe low A, because
Well, Benton got hit.
Benton did get hit, but even still, like generic. If you're playing a fairy deck, and if they hand trap you, you can just discard another fairy, and like.
Ava, and then search 2 more.
Yeah, banish the two of them, search another one. But like, yeah, just negating hand traps is cool. It's like Call by the Grave for them, but just a little minus. But you know, negating hand traps, not more.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Parry Knight. This is with this one when your opponent special summons.
No, when you take battle damage, you can special summon that, and then you can special summon a monster from your hand with attack less than or equal to the battle. That's a cool effect.
It's probably,
but it's like, yeah.
It's probably in the D tier too. Again, any of these battle phase ones are going to be down in the D tier. If they don't do enough, they're going to be in the D tier. Like if a battle phase hand trap has to do a lot for it to be higher than D tier because evenly matched. But other than that, it's just going to be pretty much the Scrap Iron Scarecrow or with Swift Scarecrow. This is probably C tier. It's the better one.
Yeah.
Of the battle phase ones, it's probably
because it's the whole battle phase.
It's the battle phase. It's not that bad. This I'd say is a little bit better.
Yeah, because it's not in the graveyard. It just summons itself.
Yeah, it summons itself from your hand,
and you get a monster in the field.
Ends the battle phase. You keep a monster, and then you can link it away for like Link Kuribo, block another attack, tribute it from the graveyard, summon Link Kuribo from the graveyard. Like this one's definitely better than Swift Iron Scarecrow, Swift Scarecrow. This is Hemwada.
What does that one do again?
Basically, whenever you take effect damage, you can discard it and negate the damage. Like you don't take the damage. Very much dependent on that one. Really depends on what the meta is. But the issue with that is like it's not even good against the deck. The deck in the game that inflicts damage the most, like direct damage, is Trickstars, but they inflict small increments. So,
and even if there was like an FTK that just did like all the damage at once, you wouldn't play like up to water. Yeah. You wouldn't play that. You'd play like Ash and Impermanence to stop them from getting to that. Like
there's better generic hand traps. There's just no reason to play it. Like generic stuff is always going to be better than very specific stuff, and that's kind of the biggest issue with hand traps. You want the more generic stuff because generic stuff is good against everyone. So you can't. It's why would you take this to a regional when you can just take Ash to a regional to stop your opponent from FTKing you? It's just always so much better.
And stop even more opponents from doing other things.
Yeah, because then of course it'll stop like every dumb deck that you play that just springs up on you. Because it's just it's disgusting. Next is Herald of Greenlight.
That one negates a spell.
It's probably somewhere in C tier.
Yeah, negating a spell isn't bad, but
yeah, it's probably around here. It's not bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's just better things like.
There's a lot of powerful spells, but monsters are just better. Red Reboot. This card's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I put that in high A.
Yeah, probably A, right next to evenly matched. This is I don't even know which deck is better. I mean, which card is better against back row decks, this or that. I mean, probably
actually both.
Yeah, they're both good, but that's why
evenly matched, and then they Judgment, and then you Red Reboot, and then they set another trap, and then you just banish everything.
No, Red Reboot's disgusting because it's like back row decks don't play a lot of strong monsters, so if they activate something. If they activate a trap and you respond with Red Reboot and they set their stuff back face down, they can't activate traps, you're going to have OTK. Because they're not going to have a ton of monsters. Like if you're playing against Altergeist, they're going to have 2 monsters max. And especially if you negate that first trap card activation and they don't get to summon the multi-figure, then they have no monsters. Mm-hmm. They just have a Link Kuribo.
Subterrors have like Guru.
Yeah, they have Guru, which what are they going to do? They can't even flip it because they can't use their Subterror
traps.
Yeah, Subterror trap. I forget which
Final
one.
Battle?
Final Battle, the one that flips. They can't even use that. I mean, this is really, really good against back row decks. Even Dogmatica. Mm-hmm. If they flip Schism, you activate that. You flip it back face down. They have no real interruptions anymore. They can't summon the shit all window. And now they just have to...
play off of just Dogmatica stuff.
Yeah, just
probably
Fleur.
Just like a Fleur, yeah.
And you got to worry about one Fleur, which is fine. Max C. S tier, extremely controversial card. Honestly, I still say Ash overall is better. Because Ash is good against all decks. Like, every deck. There's some decks that don't search that much. But there are a lot of decks, like, if you play Max C against a heavy back row deck, it won't even really do anything for you. Most of the time, they can just set their back row and end their turn anyway. Mm-hmm. But like Ash is good against everybody. Like there is never a bad time to Ash. That's why this card is so controversial. Like some people want it at 3, some people want it back at 1, which would be even more terrible than 3 because then you just get unlucky and your opponent draws it and you go through the 7 circles of hell. And then there's, this card being banned, which is probably best because it's nothing but annoying. But everyone's got their own opinion on this card. I think it's good, but honestly I think Ash is, generally speaking, a better card.
Yeah, because even against like a back row deck, you could say, oh, well, they're not going to draw. I mean, they're not going to like search. They're going to have like stuff like extravagance and whatnot that you can Ash, so they don't get even more traps and get more advantage on you. And like, if they're not going to search, they might summon from the deck. They might send a card to deck. There's just so much that hits because every hand trap has like 3 things, or the hand trap girls have like 3 things, so it's like there's just more options and stuff. I could see that, yeah.
Next is the Stronghold. I forget this card's name, but its effect is when your defense position monster is attacked, you can discard this, and then that monster gains 1500 defense. That effect is absolutely terrible. I can't imagine a situation where I would want to do that. It's not even like Honest, where you gain defense equal to your opponent's monster's attack. You just gain a blanket 1500. I don't even know if that's ever going to be enough. It's just 1500 blanket. I don't even know why I would want to use that. It's just bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad. I don't know what to say. I don't know why it exists.
And the dude in the artwork is suffering.
Who is that?
I don't know.
Oh, he's just holding a castle.
He's suffering.
I don't know why he's suffering. I don't.
For 1500 defense.
1500 defense to carry a castle around. Yeah, I don't know. That's probably that guy from, when the castle fell on him in Panic? In Yu-Gi-Oh! The original series?
No, he doesn't look like Panic.
I'm not saying it's him, but it's probably like a homage to that.
He actually looks like one of the Down to Luke monster. He looks like the fat one, yeah. Like part of the archetype, the Scorpion guys. I forgot his name. He looks like the big one, actually. Moving on.
DD Crow. This is... It's between A tier and top of B.
I'd say low A, because it just...
yeah, it's searchable, too.
Calm down. But it's
searchable, it's good.
Technically every hand trap in some way, shape, or form is searchable, so... But what's it called? DD Crow is just... hits a lot of strong decks. Like when they activate something that targets in the graveyard to special summon or something in the graveyard that has an alternate effect. Something like Miscellaneous Saurus that banishes itself. You can just banish it and then you don't have to worry about it as much. Or if they activate like Monster Reborn or something and they target in their graveyard. It's just a really overall neat card. And it's not once per turn too. A lot of hand traps are once per turn, but DD Crow is not one of them.
And this card's been good for a long time. Really long time. Dark Honest. This is a battle phase one, but I'd say it's actually fairly decent. It's probably B tier. Yeah, it's a B tier card.
It's like a lower B, yeah.
Lower B. Basically, this is the exact same thing as Honest, except
on Dark Monsters.
It's on Dark Monsters, and then on top of being on Dark Monsters, basically when your Dark Monster battles, it drops your opponent's monster. It reduces your opponent's monster's attack by its current attack. So basically it makes your opponent's monster 0. It's kind of like reverse Honest in a certain way. And we were talking about it. It's actually got some pretty cool advantages over the regular Honest, where if your opponent's monster can't be destroyed by battle, you can make your opponent's monster 0, and then you could just attack it with all your monsters. Mm-hmm. And then it's like they have a hostage on their side of the field and they can't do anything about it. You're just going to keep attacking. Like if they have a Boral Sword or a Galatea, you just drop their attack to 0, and you just attack them with all your monsters, and it's like you're attacking directly against an open field.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the advantage it has over regular Honest.
But a negative is that like if their opponent's monster is like unaffected or it has some kind of protection,
yeah,
and like weird things like that, like it just wouldn't work. But then like they're both still really good. Like.
Yeah, like Honest can help you get over it. We might as well grade Honest while we're here too. Yeah. Honest is somewhere around here.
I think it's a little.
Honest is a little bit better because that was a little situational. The thing about regular Honest that's cool is even if you're battling something like a Masterpiece, for example, or a monster that's unaffected by card effects, you still make your monster stronger, so it'll still destroy it by battle. So that part of it is very good. The problem with this is, like I said, if your opponent's monster is unaffected by things, you just can't Dark Honest. And this is like always good, especially like counter fairies and Herald and decks like that. Any deck that uses Honest, it's going to be really, really good.
Mm-hmm. One thing that Dark Honest does have above Honest though is that like in the back of your mind, whenever you play like a light deck, you see the Honest coming, but like Dark Honest isn't even released yet. So when it is released, it's like you know what? Are they really going to be running Dark Honest? So it's like it's going to have a little bit more surprise. That's one positive thing about it. Hopefully.
Nibiru.
All my homies hate Nibiru, but
it's an S tier.
It's such a crazy card.
This card's crazy. Like against the decks that it's good against, it is absolutely disgusting against, because it's like
what was that sentence? You said
because
good and against like 8 times.
The ones that it's good against, like if you don't build your deck,
we know because it's good against it.
If you don't build your deck to like your combo to prevent a Nibiru halfway through or 4 summons in, like you're just getting Nibiru'd every single time.
Yeah, and you just most of the time you just lose. There's just like you commit your normal summon, you commit link monsters or extra deck monsters in general, or if you're playing just like a main deck combo, you're committing like main deck searches and summons, and it's like a lot of those are hard ones per turn, so it's like you just put so much into it, and then at a crucial point they drop the Nibiru,
and you lose.
And then it's like
Now a lot of times you pour all these resources into it, you can't recover. Like if your deck is built around one combo, and you pour all of your stuff into that combo, there's nothing you can do. All of your extra deck monsters are in the graveyard, so you can't like fight back. But at the same time, it's got issues too, because if you're playing this back row
sometimes
deck,
if they just absolutely if they absolutely brick too, and they're just hoping to top deck like a 1-card combo or something to help them. If they just brick, you have a big token. And sometimes you just win off that token.
Yeah.
Never give up when you get Nibiru.
Yeah. Next, who is this? What was his name? I just forgot. Is this Delta?
That one is Beta.
Beta. What does he do?
When an opponent's monster declares an attack while you control no monsters.
Oh, this one. Yeah. This is another attack. Yeah. You have to control no monsters. They have to attack. Then you get to summon this and destroy the attacking monster. I remember this now. And you get to summon, of course, the drivers always.
Yeah, which is cooler than the other ones because you guaranteed get 2 monsters and you're getting rid of the attacking monster.
Yeah.
That's a little bit better than the rest of them.
I'd say this is D tier also.
The king of D tier.
King of D tier, yeah. Beta. Next is Dark Witch. This card is terrible too.
Oh, that's the fairy one?
I think this is terrible too. It might... I don't know if it might... I think it might be
worse than
our Stronghold. So basically, this card, when your fairy monster is attacked, you contribute that fairy monster, discard this card, and then change the attack target to another monster that you control, and then that monster gains attack equal to the one that you tributed. So you basically have to give up 2 cards just to increase the attack of one of your other monsters by a similar amount. It just I don't understand why you would play this.
And it's so bad.
And it's only in fairies.
It gets worse and worse the more you think about it, because the monster they're attacking is probably the one with the lowest attack. So you're not going to boost your biggest monster by that much.
Like I don't know. This card's so bad. Like it's searchable off of Benton, but it has to be an attack on a fairy. You have to have other monsters. You have so much. You have to give up so many resources.
Actually, it's not searchable because it's not a dark fairy.
What?
I mean, it's a dark fairy, not a light fairy.
Oh, so it's not searchable for Benton? Even better.
I think Benton only searches light fairies.
Even better. Yeah. But yeah, this card's terrible.
At least the Guardian Stronghold is searchable off of Gallon Granite.
Oh, yeah.
Instantly better.
No, this card's a mess. Next is...
Artifact Lancia.
Artifact Lancia.
It is searchable off of Benton.
This is searchable off of Benton. I'd say it's somewhere here.
Yeah, that's...
Middle of A. It's against the decks that it's good against. It's amazing against.
That sentence again. It sounds so weird.
Because it's like there's a lot of decks where this is going to be a dead card, but you play this against dinosaurs, they end their turn.
Yeah, there's so many virtual worlds.
Like
if they're still a thing, I guess. But like, yeah, there's so many decks that banish. Even if it's just like for 1 or 2 parts of the combo, it's like
if they can't do it, they can't play.
Yeah, it really shuts them down a lot.
Like, this card's really good against those decks, but then there's decks that you play against, and they don't banish once. They don't care. You activate this against Altergeist, they don't care. They're going to banish the whole duel. So
it's also it also counters, what's it called? Evenly matched, too. They enter the battle phase, and then you go, okay, Or they activate evenly matched, and you just chain Lancey, and then it's like
it just
they wasted everything. Their main phase, their battle phase, they're evenly matched. It's like everything is just gone. One thing about it though, it's a little awkward. It's that you can only tribute it on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
It's just like because if they banished on your turn, it's like kind of weird. But it's still extremely good.
It can be devastating against a lot of decks.
Mm-hmm.
Dynatag, go ahead. Let us know this one.
I think that's like somewhere in like low D tier.
Low D tier?
Yeah. No, it's actually S tier. No, he just what's it called? And when you're, I don't remember if it's when you take battle damage, if you're about to take battle damage, you just discard this, and both players just take 1,000 damage, which is like, there's just so many cards that actually just like stop the battle phase and things like that. But this just makes like everyone just take damage for no reason. Like
I know.
It's just like even in time, like, it's just so bad. Like everything about
you take
it.
the same amount.
Yeah, it's so.
So you're back
weird.
to square one.
Yeah.
You know, it's the point.
It's just so weird.
Dragonic Knight.
Oh, that's the one. If something's targeted, that's actually low.
Yeah, if it's
something you can, if a card you control, a card or cards you control is targeted.
Yeah, you send it to the graveyard.
Send it to the grave and special summon him. And then it's like, that's like, if they're gonna target, and they have to be targeted to be destroyed. They can't just be targeted in general.
You really have to break this down because you have to have this in your hand, and you have to have something on field for them to target, meaning that it has to be at least you going second. So it really doesn't make sense. Like, let's say you have a card on your side of the field, you normal summon like, I don't know, like Starliege Safer, and you activate its effect, and your opponent like activates impermanence. You have to send your own monster to the graveyard and then summon this from your hand. But what did that really accomplish? Because if you think about it, they got rid of impermanence
in that sense, but like that's just way too specific. Like that's like hoping for the best. At that point, you might as well not even want that. But like the main thing, no. You can't even chain impermanence because it has to destroy it.
Yeah, a card that would destroy. Oh yeah,
impermanence doesn't destroy it.
So they have to.
Yeah, I was thinking, you activate a field spell, or you activate a continuous spell or continuous trap, and then they target it with MST or Twin Twisters. If you send it to the grave, it's not going to resolve anyway.
I know, it's just there's nothing good about the. This is another one. This is like they're just wrestling down here. I don't know who's worse. He's probably better than the castle, but he has 2,800 attack though. He's big. Like the castle's just like whatever. If this guy resolves, he's level 8, 2,800. You go into Dragludi and number 100, you win. But honestly, what are these idiots?
If you did that, you'd be the greatest of all time.
Yeah, no, this card's.
You won with that guy in your deck.
Honestly, you can rearrange this F tier any way you want. They all suck. This is another really good one.
Miscellaneous Source.
This card, sure. Technically, we shouldn't even put him in here because he's archetype specific. But in his archetype, he's disgusting.
No, he's not an archetype. He's any dino.
He's a type specific.
With the favors of type specific.
You're right. You're 100% right. He is extremely good. He's extremely good. Because he makes all of your monsters...
all of your dinos
unaffected.
Completely unaffected if you control them.
Then there's a crazy graveyard effect. The whole main phase.
And he sets up for his own graveyard effect.
Yeah, and then he has a crazy graveyard effect. He's too good.
He literally... He's almost better than every hand trap in the sense that in the dino deck, if you activate him, you can't really get hand trapped on your dino monsters because most of them are like for monsters, so it's like he just protects you from other hand traps. It's like a hand. I don't even know what to say. It's a conception.
No, he's really good.
Which one is that?
This is Gamma.
Oh, Gamma. We know.
We know what Gamma is. He's tough. He's at the top of A tier because he's kind of disgusting.
I can't give my opinion because I actually.
I don't
like him like at all.
I know you don't like him, but like he's actually kind of broken though.
Yeah,
he negates and destroys.
Someone told me like, yeah, try Gamma. It's like when I was playing Cyber Dragons at a regional, I sided him in because I didn't main deck him against like some deck, and it just wrecked me. And you can't set him, and I was like, if this was just anything else, like.
And he's really good though. I can't.
Yeah, he is really good when he comes up.
When he every time during your opponent's turn, because he not only negates and he destroys, so he gets rid of your opponent's monsters. They activate LP, negate, destroy. Now their zones are all messed up. Like there's so many scenarios where it's just he messes up your opponent's turn like bad.
And not only that, he also protects you. And if like you can really trick your opponent, like if you know what their end board is gonna be, you can like activate something like, because you're probably gonna go main deck and then going second deck. You activate something like Fossil Dig, Cyber Emergency, search spells or search field spells like that, and then they go okay Ash. Then you just chain Gamma, and it's like the world shakes. Like everything gets crazy after that, because now your effect goes through. They use their hand trap. You have these 2 monsters on the field that you can go into, like you can either link with. You can go to the Omega. Like everything is just.
Yeah.
The tide of the battle just swings in your favor. It's like so crazy.
But he's disgusting. He has his drawback of having not to control anything. That's his main drawback. If that wasn't on there, he'd be the best hand trap ever.
There's nothing funner than like looking over and then seeing that like I drew the driver instead of the Gamma.
Oh, and that's his main issue. You have to no control no monsters, and you have to play a brick. But other than that, he's like disgusting.
Yeah.
Cyber Dinosaur.
Oh, one other thing. He's also not once per turn.
True. Oh yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's not once per turn. Why does that come up?
Because
Oh yeah, with the Lambda.
Yeah, Lambda or like what's it called?
Oh, if they ash it. If you activate it in hand and they ash it, you can activate it again.
Yeah, but then it activates on the ash, so then it's like what's the point? But what's it called? No, that comes up because if you have like Omega, then you can, because it summons driver from the graveyard. So if you go into something and then you have no more monsters on the field, and then you can do it again if they do something else. That's just an interesting like it probably never comes up, but for someone in the comments it'll come up. Let us know.
Cyber Dinosaur. If your opponent special summons, you can special summon him.
He's a level 7 flare metal.
Nah. He's pretty bad too.
He is mad bad.
Yeah, it has to be your opponent's special summoning, specifically from the hand. So you have to special summon him, but yeah, it's just not.
Yeah, they have to special summon from the hand, and he has to be in your hand.
Yeah, he's a mess.
And he doesn't do anything.
He doesn't do anything on field. It's not like he protects you.
Yeah, he's just not going to do anything.
He just sits there while you have him. Prohibition Snake. This card's actually pretty good in a Cybers deck. Because
I don't remember what it did.
I'll place him here. He's actually pretty good. So basically, when your Cybers Link monster battles, you can return your opponent's monster, and then you can banish this from the graveyard, and then add a level 4 or lower Cybers monster from your graveyard to your hand. So the first effect is already good, and the second effect is set up by the first effect. So I think I may have rated him a little too high. I don't think he's better than the Honest, but he's actually a pretty decent card.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely not. If you're playing a Cybers deck, I could certainly see you playing that. If you're playing Salamangreats or something, or a pure Cybers deck, or something like that, or what are they called? The girls, Marincess, which I still don't know why they're Cybers. I don't know why we're building this perfect square right now. Something's not right. All right, regular Kuribo. These other cards are really bad. I'd actually put him probably at the top of F tier. Because they're like really, really bad. He does block and attack, and he doesn't target. It can be any attack, so it could be a 10,000 attack.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually not that bad, but he is very underwhelming.
Yeah, most of these other guys don't even guaranteed to block and attack.
Harry Knight, I'm going to move. I don't even know why he's there. Dynatag, you know what? He's here. Yeah, he's a little bit of a mess. He just... Yeah, I don't know what else to say. This is Gore's, bottom of C tier. He used to be amazing, but...
Power crept.
Yeah, you got power. This is one of the most power crept cards ever. This card used to be so expensive. Everybody wanted it. He's so power crept. All he does is when your opponent declares an attack, when you take damage, you summon him, you summon a token, and basically that's it. Or if you take effect damage, you summon him, and then your opponent takes the similar effect damage, which that one almost never came up anyway. But that first one did used to come up, but...
Yeah, when they would attack with your strongest monster, and then you summon him in defense, and like, if the strongest monster was like 4,000 attack, you have a 4,000 attack token. They already attacked with their biggest monster, so then it's like, now they have to wait to get over it, but then it's like, there's just so much like...
The game's too fast.
Yeah.
The game's too fast for him to be good.
By the time, like you said before, like by the time they enter the battle phase, they have negates up and whatnot, so it's like...
Yeah. Like, I don't want to disrespect him and put him in D tier, because... We all know what he did for the game, but he's gone. Like he's like an all-star from 20 years ago. He's not the same anymore.
Like even still, he's
still better than these bums down here.
He's also changed the game because it's like always got to attack with the lowest attack monster now.
Yeah.
You never know when they're gonna drop a Gorz on you. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! It'll happen one day.
Next is Sharavis. He's pretty good. He's actually pretty good. I think more. I don't know. I'm surprised more people don't play him. I say bottom. No, too high.
I'd say like mid
I'd say
tier.
next to Miradora. Mid B tier. He's actually good because he's searchable in ritual decks. Like anytime you could search a ritual monster, you can actually search him.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason he's actually very good is because he has a hand trap effect, totally generic hand trap effect, where if your monster gets targeted, you can discard him from your hand and negate and destroy. And that effect is really good. Like it's completely and totally generic. You don't have to play the ritual spell. You don't have to play any other ritual monsters in your deck. You can just play him. And he's almost in a certain way like an extra copy of like a Call by the Grave, because if your opponent tries to impermanence or spooky dogwood or something like that.
I wouldn't compare him to
or Effect Veiler.
To Call by the Grave. Because like there's a lot of like generic things your opponent could do that targets monsters like
or bounce.
Yeah, like Nightmare, Cerberus, Unicorn, that kind of stuff. That targets and it protects from that. And he's also he also has a ritual like monster effect that sets up into his hand. Like he bounces himself to your hand, which is cool too if you want to run him like that. And what's it called? You already said it. Like any deck that can search for rituals. But one thing that's weird is that like a lot of people summon Herald of the Arclight and like Needle Fiber combos and just don't run anything to search off of it. They just like tribute it away or just synchro it away. Like you just run one of these and it's like, what are you gonna complain if you draw it? Like,
it's like a free hand trap.
Yeah, or protection really.
Nexus Engraver of the Mark. This card is super specific.
Yeah.
Super specific.
Literally, because your opponent has to specifically activate a card that's requirements are like naming one specific card, and then you can discard him and then change what they say. Yeah, to whatever you want. So if they activate like Prohibition and call him the Biru, then you can change that to something they're playing, like something against their archetype. Yeah. Yeah, it's very specific, but I think like one day there's gonna be like something like crazy that's gonna be good against. But that's like
way down the line. That's not, we're thinking too far ahead. Ghost Mourner.
It's like impermanence, but a monster, and once per turn. But it also has like a burn effect too. It's like an extra copy of impermanence, because they're probably.
It's not like I don't know why they print these a lot. I'd say probably B right here. Mm-hmm. They print these a lot. It basically just the same thing as impermanence, same thing as Effect Veiler, just slightly different.
Yeah, it's a hard once per turn, but if that monster negates leaves the field, then it
inflicts damage.
Yeah, inflicts damage, burn damage.
Ma'at. What was it, Ma'ata?
Mahama, fairy dragon.
Yeah, where does this go? This is a bad card. This is the one that I was talking about that power creeps the boxer.
But it's still
bad, so it's right next to the boxer. This basically what this does is when you take battle damage. Is it battle damage or effect damage or just battle damage? But basically when you take battle damage, this thing special summons itself, and then you can either gain the amount of damage that you took, or you can inflict the damage that you took.
It's actually a little weirder. It's when either player takes battle damage, but only during your opponent's turn. That's such a weird phrasing and specifics, but yeah.
Yeah, so if they attack your defense position monster and you activate their Stronghold to make it 1500 defense more, and then you inflict some battle damage, you can summon this.
I think you're.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of stupidity. All right, this salamander is complete garbage. Basically, when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can summon this, and then your opponent can only attack this. This thing has 1,000 defense. Who cares? Actually, this is our new bottom of F. Who cares? It's like imagine your opponent has a full board, they attack.
I think it's actually still better than the fairy, because the fairy you give up resources.
He's a salamander.
He's a gentlemander.
He's a gentlemander. He's terrible. Yeah. He's terrible too. I told you all the F tiers are garbage. I don't even know what to say. All right, no material, very specific, but very specifically good against certain decks.
Not this again. But yes, any deck that needs their first, their normal summon or their first summon to be linked away, and you just hit them with that, it gets very awkward for them. Yeah. They either have to go through an extraneous combo to play out of it and they end on like a subpar board, or they either just can't do anything. And either way is like really good for you. So it's like.
But there's a lot of decks that can just play around this card. That's the issue with it. There's tons of decks that this has literally no effect on them, unless you're playing tennis. Next is Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is really depends on the meta. If they're playing a lot of field spells, stuff like that. But this is definitely an A tier card. It'll be bottom of A tier. Very good against, like I said, field spells, continuous spell cards. It's also good against certain monsters that activate on summon. Yeah, generally speaking, it's fairly decent. It can beat. It used to be an easy way to beat True King of all Calamities, depending on what deck you were playing. I'd say it's a decent card.
Yeah,
it's a half decent card. Jurai
It's like field spells and stuff.
Yeah, field spells, continuous spells. Jurai Dago is actually not bad. Say top of D tier. Basically, when you declare an attack, you can summon him from your hand and gain 1,000. Like, not bad. He's good in the decks that he's good in, which are Lair of Darkness, Aromages,
Tribute, stuff like that.
Aromages, he's pretty good in. He's not that bad. I'd probably put him in C tier actually. This is reserved for the scum.
Scum.
Yeah, this card's actually not that bad. The decks that he's good in, he's fairly
Puts in
usable.
work. Yeah.
Next, he's just very not specific. Like like if I was playing, like if I was just picking up a new deck and I didn't know what hand traps to play, I wouldn't play him. But depending on the deck, he's actually pretty good. Dogwood is a what's the opposite of Power Crept?
Gotten better?
Huh?
Gotten better?
No, Power. No, I mean like when a new card comes out that's worse than an old card. Whatever that is, whatever the word for that is, this is Max C but worst. Because basically what this does is instead of you drawing cards,
you
gain life points equal to their attack. And to be honest with you, I'll put it in C tier. I've never seen anybody use this card. Like, ever. Like, it seems like it'd be okay on paper, but in reality, if you activate this and your opponent keeps special summoning monsters and gaining life points, it doesn't really matter, because they're going to out-resource you anyway, because you're letting them do all of that stuff anyway. And if they put up all of these negates, they're just going to OTK. Like, they might not be able to OTK you, they're still going to win.
Yeah, they're just going to have too much on the board, and it's like, they're going to have much more presence because you haven't stopped anything. And then it's like, you might have like 30,000 life points, but you can't out their board. So it's like, they're just going to keep attacking. You just that one monster, they're just going to keep getting rid of it.
All you're going to do is just, and it actually is even worse than you think, because, like, yeah, you might survive for multiple turns, and you might have multiple, like, draw phases, but you have to remember that a lot of the negates in modern decks are once per turn. So it doesn't even matter if you draw more cards later on, because all of the negates are once per turn anyway. So they're just going to use the Borreload the next turn. They're going to use Dragoon the next turn. They're going to use the Infinity the next turn. It doesn't matter if you gain those life points, because they get to negate every single turn anyway. So whatever you would have drawn over the time that you saved yourself, it doesn't really matter, because they're going to negate it anyway.
And if you draw to another one, it's just not going to do anything.
Oh, if you draw to another one, it's a case. That's a mess. Next is Jack Frost. He's the king, new king of D tier. Basically, when your opponent, declares an attack, you can book their monster and special summon this card face down defense position. I don't know what to say. It's not particularly bad. When it was out, it actually wasn't really that bad of a card. It was actually a fairly decent card. But this is one of those archetypes that as time has gone on, it's gotten worse and worse and worse.
Especially since Lynx.
And Lynx you can't even book face down anyway, so that whole protection is just irrelevant altogether. So that's that. Next we've got the Swords of Revealing Light, the man. He is...
I'd say somewhere in D, yeah.
D, middle of D. He's not that good. He has XYZ monster... what's it called? He gives an XYZ monster an additional ability. Yeah, that's if you summon him, and he has to be summoned through a direct attack. He's a mess.
Yeah, well, he's a little cool because he destroys the attacking monster. So it's like sometimes
if they have monster attack less than his defense, which is he only has 2,400 defense, he literally can't stop a Red Eyes. So next is Skullmeister. This guy's actually gotten a lot better. Is he better than DD Crow? Probably not. Probably A tier. Depends on the meta.
Yeah.
Depends on the meta. If there's a lot of graveyard going on, I'd say he is better. And he's really good too because unlike a lot of hand traps, he's actually kind of big. Like his attack, what's his attack? Double check it. His attack is actually kind of big. It's actually kind of impressive. But he's 1700 attack, level 4. Go to rank 4, 1700 attack. That's essentially a quarter of their life points. He's really not. Stat wise, he's actually really, really impressive. When you compare most of the other hand traps, like most of the other hand traps are pretty like terrible.
Yeah,
you can't summon this. This has 0. This has 0. This has 0. This has 100. This needs a tribute. This can't be normal summon or set. Like this needs to be ritual summon. This is level 7. Like most of the hand traps have terrible stats, but this card actually has really, really good stats for a hand trap, which is what makes it so much better than some of the other ones.
And he's also not a once per turn.
And he's not once per turn. That's even more important. Let me see. Okay, next is actually his like sister. She is
Ghost Bell. I'm always
Ghost Bell. Well, you may love her, but she's just okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
She's next to the other one, the Mourner. Basically, she's better in effect than Skullmeister. But again, stat-wise, Skullmeister's better, and he's not once per turn. But she does negate more because she can negate stuff like Monster Reborn.
Yeah, she negates if they summon from the graveyard, if they banish from the graveyard,
or target the graveyard to summon. Yeah, summon from.
And then I think if they try to add from graveyard to hand or extra deck, she negates that too. The only problem is like somebody negating something from the graveyard is really good. Negating adding back is good too, but the banishing one, that's
almost never. Yeah,
because
they always banish
most
for
things
cost.
Banish for cost, so she just can't banish. That's the only real issue with her. If that was just a little bit better, or if it just worked out a little bit better, she would actually be like really good, like a lot higher in the tier lists.
Next, who is this? Double check them. I forget. I forget their names. What's he telling me?
That is Delta.
Delta. What's this? Delta's what? Spell cards.
Spell cards, yes sir.
Spell card Delta. This one could actually be pretty good. Because, yeah, your board will pretty be cleared if your opponent... This one's actually, I'd say, fairly decent. I'd say this is, like, at the... Actually, I'll put it next to the green.
Yeah, the Herald.
The Herald of Green. I think it's a little bit better because you don't need to discard a fairy to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good because a lot of the combo starters that your opponent will have will be spell cards. So if you're going second, you activate this...
Unlike Nadir Servant or Golden Land Forever, or whatever that continuous spell is.
A field spell of some sort. Anything
field
like that.
Spells, yeah.
It's actually pretty good in that regard because it'll summon itself, summon the driver. Those will get banished at the end phase, but it's irrelevant because you stopped one of their main combo cards. And it's actually not easy to stop spell cards during
your
opponent's turn, so this is actually a pretty cool card for that reason. And it doesn't even have to just stop that. It stops like World Legacy Guard Drag, like even it's just any spell card. So pretty cool there. This one is Alpha. Alpha, what does he do? Like he special summons. He searches.
When your opponent normal or special summons a monster, while you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from you.
Yep. And then you search.
Yeah. He doesn't. Wow.
Yeah, he doesn't actually like interact
Destroy it,
anywhere.
yeah.
Honestly, I don't even know if I would play this in a Psy-Frame deck, to be honest with you. This one's, I'd say, pretty F tier. It's not. I don't think it's actually that great. If you're using it generically, it's definitely not good because, yeah, you might...
So you have to search for a Psy-Frame card?
You search for a Psy-Frame card, but you fill up your field. So...
But they have the normal special summon a monster. That's the only...
Yeah. No, but it's alright, in the Psy-Frame deck, it'd actually be pretty good. Yeah. But if you use this generically to search another Psy-Frame card, they normal summon, then you summon this, but now your field is full, so you can't activate the card you search.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're playing Lambda, and at that point you're just playing Psy-Frames.
Then you're playing Psy-Frames. And Psy-Frames, I can imagine this card being pretty good. Next is Fantasme. This card has fallen off. Fantasme, the GOAT.
It's actually a dragon, but honestly, I'd say somewhere in B tier.
Yeah, he is probably here.
Mm-hmm.
He's still pretty good. The issue with him is it's not even Master Rule 5. The big issue with him is that a lot of decks are... There's been a resurgence recently in back row decks. And a lot of these back row decks don't summon any link monsters at all. So for that reason, there's just a lot of decks that just this card is dead in. Like if you play against Eldritch, they're not like there's nothing they're going to summon that has any use with this card. So it's just a dead card in that matchup.
And if they do, it's not until late game.
Yeah. So and then by that time you're going to lose. So your draws aren't going to help you whatsoever. Dogmatica, Shadalls, Dinosaurs. There's a ton of decks right now that just don't even.
Thanos link summon.
They link summon, but like it'll be at most one, and they're going second, so they're going to OTK you. So what is a Fantasme going to do?
Yeah. What's it called though? My main issue with Fantasme is that it summons itself, and it has no interaction. I mean, like if they target a card you control, you can discard a card, negate, and destroy it. But my issue with it is that you summon it and you draw to what's it called? To search for to draw into more hand traps.
Right.
But the better hand traps, you need no monsters on the field, like Gamma and Impermanence, all that nonsense. And if you draw into like Nibiru or something like that, then it gets a little awkward.
Next is Divine Serpent. This card is a little bit decent. I'll be honest with you. If this card came out when Gores was out, it probably would have been used. So I'll put it next to Gores.
We should do Tragodia at the same time too.
Yeah, Tragodia is actually up there too. Tragodia is next to Gores and Gea. They all have pretty similar effects where they're not like these battle phase ones where they're kind of like trash. But this card's actually pretty good where if you take battle damage with Tragodia, it gets a special summon itself, and then it gains attack for every card in your hand. Like, it's not bad at all. And basically when your monster's destroyed by card effect or by battle, you can special summon it, and then basically this card, when it battles, gains the attack of your opponent's the highest monster on the field, and then additionally, if it battles, like if it attacks, it cuts your opponent's monster's attack in half, which again is not bad. And also when it battles, it negates that monster's effects. Like, it's got some pretty cool effects for sure. But again, I think if it came out when Gores came out and when Gores was in the meta, it would have been a half decent card. But this card came out in 2018.
Yeah.
And by that time,
I think it's Cybernetic Horizon, right?
No, Duel. Was it Cybernetic Horizon?
I think so. I remember pulling
Cybernetic Horizon, and then it got a rarity bump in dual power. But yeah,
Who asked?
Who asked? Nobody, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's certain cards we want put in the game. We don't get them, but we get that. But this, it's I think if it came out earlier, it would have been a decent card, but it just came out too late for it to be good. Next is Cycle Reader. This card is very specific. I'll put it next to Honest. Like, again, we're reviewing these as generic hand traps. We're not reviewing these as specifically in the meta right now, just as generic hand traps. But Cycle Reader is actually pretty good because if your opponent's playing a light deck, this card is very good against them.
Wait, which one?
Cycle
the Ally
Reader.
of Justice?
Yeah, Ally of Justice. It's very good. It's very good. Like, when Blue Eyes was meta, this card was used. When Drytron was meta a week ago, and it probably will be, this card was used because you can just banish their Bentons, banish their Natasha, banish all that stuff. So for those reasons, it was very, very, very good. But again, against decks that aren't Drytron and Blue Eyes, what is this card going to do?
Even against something like Cyber Dragons, it's not that
Yeah.
impactful. It's like very specific even against light decks.
Yeah. I mean, it could be good against Cyber Dragons if you activate the trap card to destroy Overflow, and they banish.
It's true.
They banish your Cyber Dragons.
But by that point, they have like infinities up and stuff like that. So
yeah.
It gets a little tricky. But even still, it's just specific.
Yeah. Now, next is the White Princess.
Whoa. Watch your language, man.
She goes in somewhere in D tier, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's right here. She's another one of these battle phase ones. Like, you discard her and your opponent loses attack points. Is it 300 for every card they control?
No, 300 for every level or rank. 300 times their level or rank.
Yeah.
So if they have like a Blue Eyes, it loses like 24. Which is like...
Oh, that's actually not bad. Yeah. That probably goes a little higher. She's the new, like, Queen of D tier. Yeah, she's not bad. That's actually not bad.
It's not... She's cool because she's not, like, once per turn and stuff like that. She's, like, hand or field. But, what's interesting about her is that like it's like not really gonna impact too many like decks, but against Drytrons it makes them a little awkward. That's what's like cool about her. But that's really it.
Next is Dimensional Shifter. This card's amazing.
Yeah, but
it's specific.
Yeah, you have
but
to
it's
start
amazing.
with it.
He's next to Lancia.
You can't draw into it. Like you have to start with it. You have to like.
Yeah, you have to start with it because you have to have no cards in your graveyard when you activate it. So that's its issue. But like, if you activate this against most decks, they just end their turn.
Mm-hmm.
They just straight up end their turn. So basically, what this card does is any card that would be sent to the if you have no cards in your graveyard, you can discard this card for the rest of the turn. Any card sent to the graveyard
until the end of the next turn.
Oh yeah, it includes your turn also. Basically for the next 2 turns, your opponent's and yours. Or I guess it would be yours and then your opponent's, depending on when you activate it. But you can activate it any time. It's not like other hand traps. It's not responsive at all. Like you can, as soon as your turn starts, activate it. As soon as your opponent's turn starts, they get the player priority and then you activate it. But generally speaking, like this card can be activated virtually at any time as long as there's no cards in your graveyard. But basically for the next 2 turns, any card that's sent to the graveyard is banished. It's like Macrocosmos for the next 2 turns. It's actually a really good card because most decks will straight up just end their turn. They cannot play through something like that because they use their graveyard significantly, so they'll like set a monster and end.
And it's literally like the start of the duel. Like there's no negates. You have to start with Call by the Grave at 1.
Yeah.
Like it's the only way you can just prevent something like that.
The only issue is that it banishes your cards sent to the graveyard too.
But if you're playing this, you're playing it in a deck where that doesn't matter or it benefits you.
So you're gonna play it in like a deck like Grand Manju, which Metaphys,
if you play Metaphys,
or Counter Fairies, or something like that, where it basically buys you a turn. It basically creates a situation where even though you lost the die roll, you're still going to be going first. And not only are you going first, you're not going first with a battle phase.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very good card for the decks that it's used in. Drone Logbird, this is another A.
You don't think it's S tier?
We have a disagreement. I'll put it in S. Where do you want to put it?
I'd say bottom of S.
Bottom of S?
Yeah.
Right.
Some decks just can't. Like
they can't play.
Yeah. They literally can't play. Like there's just you search so many times with like big combo decks like Drytrons, Dragon Link, it's decks that draw like Dark Worlds, Blue Eyes, stuff like that. There's just so much.
Yeah, if they get drolled, it's over.
Yeah, once you get drolled, it's like it's over. It literally is. Like you just can't do anything.
Yeah, it's
and then there's like the droll reincarnation, which is like the absolute worst thing that ever happened.
Next is Purple Light. I'm going to put it next to the other one here.
He actually might be worse because you have to discard a...
Oh, yeah, discard a fairy instead of having no resource cost. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's probably worse. But basically, the reason that the trap ones are so bad is because the traps that you'll be negating... Like, there's very few situations, again, where you'll have traps on the field. Well, you have no monsters on the field and your opponent activates a trap. But in this case, your opponent can have traps, monsters on the field. So, probably a little better. But the issue with this card is, again, like, the traps that you're negating, you can't negate, like, counter traps.
Mm-hmm. Which are the most meta-relevant and, like, impactful. I guess, actually, this one is better because you can negate impermanence.
Yeah.
But, like, it's still just, like...
There's just better cards to play.
Yeah.
Effect Veiler.
That's, like... I think that's high A.
Yeah, he's
It might
really
even
good.
be at the top of A.
Yeah, it probably is. Effect Veiler, it's crazy how many years Effect Veiler has been good.
Mm-hmm.
It just continues to be a good card. And the Ultimate Rare never goes down in value because it just keeps going up. Now, Effect Veiler is really, really good just because it is not once per turn, even though it is during your opponent's turn.
Mm-hmm.
It's still very good. And it's also a tuner, which also helps it. It's a level 1. It's very easy to access. Certain decks can search it very easily. But it's just great. It's like...
And it's also not reactive. Like, they don't... Like, Moonlit Chill, they have to... Like, it has to be on summon.
Yeah.
But this is, like, at any point during your opponent's main phase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like at any point they can just normal summon it, and you can wait for them to activate the effect. You can wait for them to not activate the effect. It doesn't matter. You can just do it whenever you want. And it's also not once per turn.
And it's better than impermanence in certain ways because you can leave it in your hand. You don't have to set it because sometimes you set impermanence and they pop the impermanence, whereas this, you can leave in your hand and it's kind of protected.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its advantages. Chaos Hunter.
Chaos Hunter is good.
He's
but
good.
I've honestly never seen anyone play it. It is a really good card.
I'd say better than no material right here.
Mm.
Basically, when your opponent summons a monster, you can discard a card from your hand, summon this. For the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot... Well, not for the rest of the turn, just your opponent, blanket, cannot banish cards. So, against the decks that have to banish, this card is really good.
Yeah, Eldritch and whatnot.
Yeah, like if that's what they need to do, it's very difficult to out this monster if they can't do the regular combo, and this thing's 2,500 attack. So it's actually fairly good. Yeah, fairly good card. We'll do Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries next. This is an underrated card, honestly, because against a lot of decks, it just destroys them. Like, it just absolutely wrecks most decks. Where would I put this? I put it here.
That seems about right.
Yeah.
It's probably
top half of B tier.
It's probably. I think it's actually definitely the most expensive hand trap on the list for sure.
Psych.
No, because you have to run every single meta relevant.
Yeah, this is really good in a deck that doesn't use an extra deck.
Yeah, Pot of Extravagance type beat.
Yeah, like you basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna play a bunch of super poly targets and you're gonna play this. If your deck doesn't use the extra deck anyway, this is a perfect card for that deck because you can just play things like Needle Fiber, like let's say they summon, I don't know what is a card that gets into Needle Fiber. Tour Guide. They summon Tour Guide. They summon Resonator and the Tour Guide itself. You just activate this, declare Needle Fiber. Now they can't do their combo and they wasted their normal summon.
Or even better, they link two monsters into. They have like a bad hand. You use other hand traps. You stop them. They summon Predaplant. They activate the effect. You chain Winter Cherries. And then you banish the Dragoon.
Yeah.
And then it's like they literally can't do anything from that point on. There's just so many.
They're locked into no special summons. They already sent the Red Eyes,
mm-hmm.
and they're just trapped. There's so many decks. You basically have 15 slots in your extra deck to use on whatever you want.
Yeah.
Whatever the meta deck is.
Meta relevant decks or like decks that are relevant at your locals.
Yeah.
You just run Winter Cherries and Winter Cherries targets, and it's like.
It's disgusting. Like, it's just so...
And it's expensive, because every format...
It depends.
The extra deck monsters change, and it's like...
It is expensive to keep upkeep, yeah. I didn't even think about it that way. It really is, because you have to actually buy your opponent's extra deck cards, which can be expensive for yourself, when you really think about it, because this is a cheap
mm-hmm.
hand trap. It's a $1 hand trap, but when you spend all that money on the extra deck, it's kind of insane.
Hundreds of dollars.
It really is. Depending on what you play,
mm-hmm.
it could be very, very expensive. All right, next we've got Confronting the Sea. This is another Buns card. Basically, when your opponent special summons from the extra deck, you summon this card, and then this monster is unaffected by cards that target
monster effects.
By monster effects, which you might as well just say this card can't be targeted by monster effects. So they're writing that weird speech on there. This one's just weird. I don't know why you would want to do that. I guess it's better than the battle phase ones because it's on summon, but. Yeah, I'd say bottom of D tier. It's a fair place to put it.
I guess if you're playing some kind of like rank 6 deck.
Yeah, it's very, very weird. Confronting the Sea. This is the one this one's actually pretty good.
The last one was Confronting the Sea.
Oh, which one was this in name?
I think that one's Retaliating Sea.
Oh, Retaliating Sea. This one works with the spell card though, right?
Yeah.
So this one's still pretty. This one's
actually the best one out of other than Maxi, of course.
But. Other than Maxi, this is the best C card. I'd say put it next to all the other spell negators here. Basically, this card, when your opponent activates a spell that will summon a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then any card that leaves the field, or any card that goes to the graveyard, is banished instead. That's good against that's actually good against a lot of cards, like a lot of random cards.
Yeah, like we named a few earlier, like Drytrons. That's really good if they activate Nova.
Yeah.
And then Shadal.
Shadal Fusion. It's good against It's actually good against like the Guard Dragon spell card because that summons a monster from graveyard. The Guard Dragon.
What's special?
Legacy
spell
World
card special summons in general.
Yeah, it's good against World Legacy Guard Dragons. So everything that's sent from graveyard is banished, so that's pretty good.
It's just a little specific.
Yeah, and is this the one that when it leaves the field it searches?
Yeah, it leaves the field search for. You can add one Earth Insect type with 1500 or less attack.
Goki pull. All right. Next
Very
is this one right here.
Handman.
Yeah. Handman.
Contact C.
Contact C.
When your opponent normal special summons a monster, you can special summon this guy from your hand to the opponent's field, and
They can't link it away
fusion, synchro, X, Y, Z.
unless they use this.
Unless they use it, which is you literally give them the free monster.
Yeah, you just give them a free monster.
There's so many generic links out there.
They will just link it away.
Yeah,
this actually might be down here.
You're making it so worse for yourself.
It just I don't see how that could be good.
Yeah, they're actually just gonna make an Appaloosa with an extra material.
Yeah, that's just
you're losing a card and they're gaining a negate. Like,
somehow this is still better than these. All right, this is confronting the sea, right?
I gotta see it.
This
Confronting the sea. You already did confronting the sea like 8 times. That's flying sea.
Flying sea.
That's the one where you summon it and then they can't XYZ summon.
Oh, that is just too specific.
It's so like.
It's too specific. Like it's good against an XYZ deck. Like if you're playing against Zodiacs. No, it's like good against Zodiacs. Okay, but like I'd say top half of D tier. If you're playing against Zodiacs, it's good. If you're playing against anybody else, it's useless.
Yeah.
So that is it. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this tier list. If there's anything we forgot, please leave it in the comments section below, and have a terrific day. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, check out the other videos on the channel, and please subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. Again, thank you so much. Have a terrific day.